Muhammad, the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Imam War. I almost call myself Imam War. No, I'm Imam Tawheed Rashad of Historic Masjid Wali Muhammad, and my duties today are to give the welcome and the greetings, and give you an introduction of our final installation in Black History Month. Today, we have a distinguished panel from CARE panel, and the night's topic is Black History and Civil Rights, and our guest panel is Dawood Walid and Sister Tahira Khalid and Sister Asha Noor. And after the presentations of CARE, we're going to have a historic Wali Muhammad documentary produced by our own Sister Sabreen Hanifa. And after that, we'll have questions and answers about the documentary, and we'll have a break for questions and answers for our panel today, excuse me. And as customary, brothers and sisters, let us open up in our prayer entitled Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum.
To Imam Tawheed Rashad, Imam Rashideen, Imam Shukri, brothers and sisters of Islam, all of you who are equally dignified and honorable, Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi. الذين أذب الله عنهم الرزق وطهرهم تطهيرا ورضي الله عن أصحابه الراشدين المباركين والتابعين لهم بخير وإحسان إلى يوم الدين وعلينا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وأما بعد. We begin with God's name, with Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. The praise and thanks belongs to Allah, the guardian, evolver, cherisher, and sustainer of the systems of knowledge. And may the prayers and peace be upon our leader, Muhammad, and upon his family members, those who Allah desired to remove from them the stains of filth and sin. And may Allah be pleased with the honorable companions who are rightly guided, and bless the rightly guided companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and upon all of those who follow them in spiritual excellence until the day of judgment, and may Allah make us be among them. Let me say, firstly, not just as the Executive Director of the Michigan Chapter of CARE, but as a son of this community, that we are very blessed, and we feel very appreciative to be able to have this discussion here today at the historic Masjid Wali Muhammad, formerly Temple Number 1 under the Nation of Islam. As I was speaking with my colleague, Sister Aisha, earlier, that it was 20 years ago, April of 1998, where I moved to the city of Detroit and walked through those doors. Actually, the first person that I met on the Jummah day was Imam Salim Rahman, may Allah have mercy upon his soul, where I rang the doorbell and he let me in the door. And though I had been Muslim for a number of years before I stepped foot into this building, it was my spiritual rebirth, and my Muslim identity was solidified in this building right here, in these four walls. So I can never thank Allah enough for Masjid Wali Muhammad, and from the origins, from the circumstances that birthed this very special and historic community, not just for Bilalians, for the sons of Bilal, but for Muslims all throughout this United States of America, where it was this building right here, this building that made the social political space for Islam to be openly practiced in these United States of America. And we can never thank the pioneers enough, those who have passed on, and some of those who are still with us, for living and breathing Islam in the United States of America when it was much harder to be openly Muslim than it is right now. With all the Islamophobia and anti-Muslim bigotry that we go through now, I'm not trying to diminish it, but what we're going through right now is a cakewalk under Trump in comparison to what our ancestors in the early 20th century, mid-20th century had to go through right here, and not just down south, we're talking about right here in the city of Detroit. Okay, so we can never thank Allah enough with the blessing, the ni'mah, the favor that He gave us through Masjid Wali Muhammad. And for any of those of you who are younger, before I make some additional comments about this topic, well, actually I'm leading into it, but not really what I want to say, but the Spirit's moving me. But Allah Azza wa Jal said in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, السابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم. Allah Azza wa Jal talks about those who came before us, السابقون السابقون, the forerunners, the vanguard, right? And they are those who are the closest to the closest proximity in terms of righteousness and connecting to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for them is the reward of the blessed abode. The commentators of the Quran say that these three ayat refer to the Sahaba, the companions of our beloved Prophet. May Allah be pleased with the pious companions. But no one understands that anywhere that Islam traveled and established itself, that first generation that embraced Islam and struggled to establish it in that land are the best generation of its people. Those first Muslims who embraced Islam in Ethiopia, Habasha, Somalia, that's the best generation of Muslims from that area. And Najashi being the foremost of those. Right? The best generation of those who were Persian, who accepted Islam in Persia, that is the best generation of Muslims from Persia. In India, subcontinent, and we can keep going on and on and on, right? So, to my younger brothers and sisters, who are younger than myself or in my generation, Generation X, millennials, now we have something called centennials, no one understands that though we maybe have memorized much more Quran, we have learned the Arabic language, and we have memorized all these hadith, we are not as good as the generation that came before us. Don't look down on your elders. Don't look at this because they don't pronunciate al-Fatiha the best way you think that you pronounce it, or proper tajweed, right? Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that al-barakah, or blessing, is with your elders. This hadith is authentic. The barakah is ma'a, is in close proximity, not just intellectually, but being in the company of your elders is where the barakah is. So always show the due proper respect and deference to your elders, because that is where your blessing is at in this dunya, is with your elders. I cannot say and emphasize this enough, especially in our society that is becoming more individualistic, less communal in general, in which many people look down to elders and say, oh, you know, that's the old way, that's old-fashioned, they got it wrong, that's played out. That's not the way of the Muslims. Okay? It's not the way of the Muslims, and not the way of the companions and the tabi'een, it's not the way of Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's not our way. Okay? Now, we were supposed to have Dr. Bilal Ware originally on this panel, and he sends his regards, and I informed the administration. I call him my brother from another mother, and we share many things in common. Professor at the University of Michigan. He actually had told us that he could speak today, but then he had checked with his scheduler, and he actually had unintentionally double booked. So he's speaking at a conference right now at the University of Chicago relating to Muslims of African descent from West Africa to the Americas, a very important conference. So our brother just emailed me this morning, and again he sends his regrets, but he assured me that his heart is right here at Masjid Muhammad. He wanted to be here today, but he's at this academic conference along with some of our other brothers and sisters, including Dr. Su'ad Abdul Khabir, who is a daughter of this community, but from number 2, from Chicago. Okay? So that's one thing. The other thing is Sister Tahira Khaled is supposed to be here with us. She has not responded. So inshallah, she's fine and safe. Hopefully she comes in the tail end and she can add to this discussion, but the most important thing is that she's healthy and that she's safe. Whether she wasn't able to make it from some circumstance beyond her control. Okay, so that's something I wanted to put out. Now, in the beginning of this discussion, very briefly before I turn the microphone over to my colleague, is that we're having a discussion about Islam, Black History Month, and civil rights. And the people who are from this community, many of them, Imam Rashidin's one, know this history much better than I do. Okay? Know this history much better than I do. But for our visitors, the Muslims who are not a part of Masjid Muhammad, or for our guests that are here who are people of other faiths, I just want to remind you of something or give you some information perhaps you don't know. That the existence of Muslims of West African descent in the Americas are older than America itself in 2 ways. The first way is that there's historical evidence and anthropological proof that there were Muslims here in the Americas before Columbus got lost coming to America. Okay, and I say Columbus got lost coming to America, that's why he misnamed the people Indians. So Muslims, please stop bragging that Columbus had a Muslim navigator. He did have a Muslim navigator, but Columbus got lost, number 1. Number 2, he is the father of genocide of the indigenous people of this land. So there's nothing to brag about that Columbus had a Muslim navigator that brought him here to the Americas so that he could start the ethnic cleansing process of the native people, the rightful people of this land. Right? So please, I've heard Muslims brag over Columbus had a Muslim navigator. There's nothing to brag about. Just the last thing, if you look at the old picture of the Muhammad Speaks, for those of you who are followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, what was on it? It was a picture of the black man that was over here in America, reaching out his 2 hands across over to the east. Right or wrong?
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
It's right there.
Yeah.
So that was the teachings.
That's right.
Just like the teachings were, it said that the language of our ancestors, the language of the Asiatic black man was what? It was Arabic. Because we were being trained to learn the language of the Quran for this deen, to go back to the language to connect with Deen al-Fitra, to the religion, to the way of life of our original nature, the religion of the original man, Adam alayhi salam.
Yes.
Ain't that right?
That's right?
That was the old teachings.
That's right.
So those were good teachings. With that, let me stop preaching. I'm up here giving a khutbah. No, I need to pass the microphone over to our sister because we want to come up to the here and now so that we can be refreshed or get more information about some of the issues that are affecting us relating to civil rights for Muslims. And as most of you know, some of you in here aren't black, but as we know that when you're black and Muslim in America, that's like a double whammy, right? And it's my opinion, and yeah, look, see, you're taking words out of my mouth. I think the most marginalized person in the American society, socially, politically, my belief, is a Muslim woman who's black who wears hijab.
Teach, bro.
That's the most marginalized person in our society, socially, politically. This is my belief. So with that, I'm going to pass the microphone over to a black woman who's Muslim who wears hijab. Our sister Aisha. Takbir. Takbir. Takbir.
Subhanallah.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I am not a preacher. I am just an activist, so bear with me. I may not be as exciting as my colleague here, Brother Imam Dawood. Again, I'm really honored and humbled to be in this space. This is a really important community space. There's such a rich legacy in this mosque. There's such a rich legacy of Islam here in Detroit. And I know that I can pass the mic to any one of the original Muslims in this community who can probably school me on the history and really give me something to learn from. And I full-heartedly agree with Brother Dawood that there's so much to be learned from our elders, and there's so much to be learned from all of you in this community space, as many of you are pioneers and have an intimate knowledge and history of how Islam came to Detroit and how it's transformed to what it is today. Again, we're here today because of Black History Month, and I know that we're here as a celebration. Again, I think we need more than a month to celebrate all of the amazing things it means to be Black in this country. And I think that it's really important for us to get together in these sort of spaces and not only learn from the past, but figure out ways to try and implement it in our community moving forward. Moving forward in history, Detroit is also another really important site for Islam. As many of you, of course, know in this room, the Nation of Islam was actually founded here in Detroit in 1930 by Fard Muhammad, and later the movement was led by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And many people in the Muslim community don't really pay homage or give credit to the nation for many of the liberties that we are able to enjoy today as Muslims in America. We wouldn't have Islamic schools, we wouldn't have the ability to wear khimar, we wouldn't have the ability to pray openly in our places of worship, we wouldn't be able to pray at our places of employment. And so I think it's really important to look at the history of the nation, not only as, you know, the inception of sort of Islamic modern day history, but also as providing all of us who came after the ability to truly and openly practice our faith. And the nation birthed so many iconic leaders that are still legends when we think of the liberation movement for Black lives. We have Malcolm X, may Allah be pleased with him. We have Muhammad Ali, may Allah be pleased with him. We have Warad Ad-Din, may Allah be pleased with him, and so many more. Sister Betty Shabazz, Sister Clara Muhammad. There's so many amazing people who have truly transformed the way this country functions, the way the Muslim community functions, the ways in which we can freely practice our faith and be Black in this country. And so, thinking about the nation, we have to think about the historical